What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Adventure Outpost. Another weekend has come and gone, and it is once again time to discuss some box office numbers. We had a monstrous weekend for a franchise long beholden to this time period. Another Halloween has come and gone, and we are going to discuss its numbers and what it means for the future and all that good stuff coming up next. But before we get into that, like always, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, drop a comment down below. Let's hear all those Halloween comments you want to throw. I know there's probably a bunch of them. A lot of people had a lot of thoughts about this movie. I'll discuss a little bit of mine as we get into it, but first we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about all of these box office numbers. And we're going to look here at the top 10 grossing movies for the weekend. It was an uptick for the weekend. Halloween was able to give us that bump. We are up 35.2% over the previous weekend. The top 10 movies this week were able to make a combined total of $72 million, bringing us up over that hump from last week. And hopefully with the release this week of Black Adam and Tickets to Paradise, we are going to keep that upwards trajectory right on until the holidays. So let us dive into the top 10 right now. We're going to take a look at the charts, baby. Let's go. And if you took a look at it, it's no surprise to anybody that in number one place is Halloween Ends with a whopping $40 million off of a $30 million budget. Now, obviously, this is usually be a big win. Your $30 million budget, you made $10 million over that. Everything now, we're printing money. I mean, obviously, we don't know how much this movie took to market, so there might be still some recuperating that we got to do from market costs before we start printing green. But this is a solid opening for them, especially in this franchise, to start printing money. However, there is a little bit of an asterisk, a little bit of a caveat, if you will. This is the lowest opening weekend for the new Halloween trilogy. It's a very interesting thing to look at. The first Halloween, I think, opened up monstrously. I don't remember offhand exactly what the totals were. Obviously, 2018 was a very different time for the world, so that movie opened up to monstrous numbers. Halloween Kills last year, a little bit of a tumble. It still did all right. Nothing amazing. Still did better than here. Obviously, Halloween Ends. I think it ended somewhere in the $50 million range, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, I should have had these numbers, but I don't, so whatever. But that movie obviously hurt a bit by we were still in the heat of an area of the pandemic that was going all up in the air right then. And also the day and date streaming did not help that movie either, especially also coupled with its absolutely horrific reviews. And that train continues with this movie. Obviously, as you can see, there's just been a downward trajectory of these movies since the first one has come out. This movie is suffering much in the same way that Halloween Kills has ended. You were hoping that maybe it would get a bit more of an uptick, considering this was the final movie. This was being heralded as the end to the Halloween franchise. But even that wasn't enough to put asses into the seats. And it definitely was the same stuff as Kills. Terrible reviews didn't help it. Day and date release didn't help it. We're a bit out of the ways of the pandemic. The pandemic isn't so much something you have to worry about, but obviously there are still a lot of people that will not go to the movies because of the pandemic. So the day and date streaming kept all those people at home. I know a lot of YouTubers that I follow, all for like movie collecting and everything, that I saw them all week posting their stories just watching that shit at home. And it's a little disheartening to see, because if anybody should be out in the theaters, it should be those guys. It should be all the people that champion physical media and all that shit, because if you don't go see the movies in theaters, you're not going to fucking have physical media much longer after that. So you got to get out and you got to go see these movies. So if you can't even get those people into theaters, how are you going to get the regulars? It's tough. The reviews especially did not help this movie. Now, that's something we can talk about. We can get into it a little bit right now. Obviously, we might go into it a little bit more later, but I'll dive into some of my thoughts on it now. I actually just came back from seeing this movie. This is one of those things where I say to people all the time, like, if a trailer interests you or an idea for a movie interests you, I don't give a fuck what the critics say. I don't care if the critics herald it as like the greatest movie of all time or they herald it as the worst movie of all time. There is nobody that's going to be a better judge on a movie than yourself, because you are the only person that is going to enjoy it in the way that you enjoy things. A critic is going to enjoy something way different than the way you are. So if something interests you, get out and go see it, because the reviews for this movie were fucking so terrible. I was hearing so much crap about it that I was like, I wanted to see it more, because I was like, I need to see how bad this movie is. And then I ended up loving it. I thought the movie was really, really good. Obviously, there was some stuff that you could always work on. There still was a lot of silly shit in the movie, but the core idea of the movie I thought was really fucking interesting, and it was easily, to me, the most interesting Halloween movie they've made since Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And for me, it comes down to a couple of things. I think with a lot of people, the Halloween movies, to them, they want just the same shit over and over again. You know, like, I lament all the time that I hate the Halloween movies, most of them, because it's just the same fucking movie all the time. Halloween, and like Michael Myers shows up, he's gonna kill a lot of people. Either Laurie Strode's gonna stop him, or in the case of 4 to 6, other people are gonna stop him, or in some of the other ones, people are gonna stop him. But it's the same concept every time. Michael shows up, he raises hell, he gets killed, he's not really killed. We'll see you again in the sequel. So I was in right off the bat that this movie was something different, that it wasn't just recycling the same fucking diarrhea storyline as every other Halloween movie. They were going to try and tell something different. And they kind of made it into this thing that this town and the way people gossip and talk about each other and the way that people react and deal with people and the way that, you know, like bullying and the way that we interact with people really can create these types of monsters. So it was one of those things where it was almost like not taking away from Michael Myers being such a villain, but it shows how there is public perception in the way people treat each other that is just as important in creating these monsters. And Haddonfield was kind of like this cyclical town that was stuck in this bubble of just creating these monsters. And we follow it through a new character for the movie and his struggle dealing with his inner demons that have been built up because of an accident that then the town of Haddonfield turned against this kid and made this kid feel ostracized and just bullied this kid mercilessly and over this one thing that happened to him. It was a really fucking interesting idea. And along the way, while this kid is dealing with this, he comes across Michael Myers, and Michael Myers takes him under his wing like a protege, and they start going around killing people together. That to me is such an interesting idea, and I give this movie so much props for at least trying something different and doing something interesting and keeping me much more entertained than any other Halloween movie has been able to do since Season of the Witch. So I always implore to people, if something interests you, if you see a trailer or something, don't listen to critics. Never look at a critic. Like a critic's idea, don't read critics' reviews until after you've seen a movie. If a movie interests you, go out and see it, because you never know when you might like something or see something that you really enjoy that the critics ended up hating. I have that happen all the time where critics love a movie and I think the movie's fucking trash and I can't take it. Or there's movies where critics like shit on and they say like it's really crappy, and then you go and see it and you're like, I actually really like that and enjoyed it. So never fucking listen to critics. So if I could have any 2 cents here, if you could hear anything, if there was any part of you that wanted to see Halloween Ends, go see Halloween Ends. It's not nearly as bad as the reviews make it seem. To me, it's actually my favorite of the new trilogy of the Halloween movies. I know most people would say the first one is, but to me, that movie's just a copy of the original. And if I'm going to watch a Halloween movie, I'll just watch the original. But if I'm going to watch one of these new ones, I'll at least watch Halloween Ends because it does something different. So if you're looking for something different from your Halloween franchise, get out and go see Halloween Ends. Looking here in number 2, it's a big, huge weekend for horror. Horror is fucking running wild right now. Smile holds on to second place in its third weekend. I shouldn't say holds on to second place because it's dropped into second place. It held first for the last 2 weekends. But it takes second place in its third week, dropping 32.2%, taking in $12 million for a $71 million domestic haul off of a $17 million budget. This movie's printed money. It is doing fantastic. It had a great hold, especially going up against Halloween. So it's one of those movies where you thought Smile would end up falling into the dust now that everyone had Halloween to go to. But Smile held on strong, still pulling in $12 million. It's good for that movie. This movie's raking in dollars. I hope it continues to do so over the Halloween season, and that by the time that this movie ends its run, we are adding it to the $100 million blockbuster club. This movie deserves it, deserves to be in that club, and I would love to see a sequel. Dropping in at number 3, we've got Lyle Lyle Crocodile in its second week, dropping 35.5% for a $7 million haul, taking it up to $22 million domestically off of a $50 million budget. This movie's still got a lot of ways to make some money. I don't think it's going to do it. This movie is going to join some other movies from the end of September and early October that are struggling financially. We'll get to those other ones. We're going to actually see these movies, see if they're going to make it onto another list of mine at the end of this video. It remains to be seen if they're going to get there, but as we're going to chart through the weeks, we're going to see what happens with them. I think the 3 of them might end up being on there depending on how the next couple of weeks go. So it's going to be something that remains to be seen, and we're going to keep checking it out here. So keep checking out week to week, and we're going to see where Lyle Lyle Crocodile ends up in its final tally. Hanging on strong still in the top 5 in its 5th week is The Woman King, dropping only 28.5%, taking in $3.7 million for a total domestic haul of $59 million off of a $50 million budget. Woman King, that's a solid, that's pretty good. Obviously, again, we don't know marketing costs, so we don't know if it's yet printing money. We have to see, especially with what it did maybe worldwide. But this movie so far, pretty big win there for TriStar. I think that's pretty successful that you can enjoy for, especially with that budget and what you were putting out. This movie easily could be going along with Lyle and some other movies in the box office bomb category, but it's managed to cling on there. It's managed to keep holding up totals. It's been hanging in the top 5 for 5 weeks right now. Not a lot of movies do that, so that's pretty good for Woman King to be in that company at the moment. And rounding us off in the top 5 is Amsterdam in week number 2, dropping, holy mother of God, a whopping 57.1%, taking in only $2.7 million for a total domestic haul of $11 million off of an $80 million budget. Holy mother of God, wipe the sweat off your forehead. Everybody involved in this movie must be kicking themselves right now when they read these totals from weekend to weekend. That is absolutely atrocious. I was reading somewhere that it looks like this movie could end up losing anywhere from up to $100 million, which is absolutely fucking insane. A movie like this should never have even been in that situation where it stood to lose that much. This is a movie that has no reason to have an $80 million budget. It is absolutely insane to me. We're going to absolutely see this in a category later that we're going to talk about, but this has to surely be one of the biggest box office bombs of 2022 so far. Taking a look here on the back 5, we've got in number 6, Don't Worry Darling, in its 4th week, dropping 36%, taking in $2.2 million to bring its total domestic haul to $42 million off of a $35 million budget. This movie very much in the same boat as The Woman King, where we don't know what its marketing cost is, so we don't know if it's yet printing money, how much money it's making, how much it still has to go to even start to turn a profit. So it's one of those ones where it's right in those middle ranges right there, where it's not quite a box office bomb, but it's not quite anything to be heralding as a fucking absolute win. So it's just sitting languishing right there in purgatory. We're just gonna have to keep watching as the weeks go to see if it's able to keep adding in any little totals to make itself into the green profitability. Some movie that is making a stonking load of money that we can herald as an absolute win for 2022 is our number 7 movie, and that is Barbarian in its 6th week, dropping 37.4%, taking in $1.3 million for a total domestic haul of $38 million off of a $4 million budget. That is a fucking win right there. That anybody involved with that, taking a look at that, goes more $4 million budget horror movies, please, so that we can keep printing fucking money. 2022 has been a absolute train ride for fucking horror movies. Just wins all across the board. Scream, huge win. The Black Phone, a huge win. Barbarian, a huge win. Smile, a huge win. We're going to keep charting Halloween Ends. Probably won't be a huge win, but it's at least going to make some money. The last one to watch now to see what it's going to do is Pray for the Devil at the end of October. Hopefully we could add that one to the list of absolute juggernauts of 2022 horror. Another absolute, I guess, I don't know, this is more of a low scale one. I didn't even know about it until it came out or it was even a thing, but another successful horror movie is coming up right here, and that is in our 8th spot, Terrifier 2. In its 2nd week, positive. It made 28% more money than last week. We don't really get to see many positives week to week here, so it was awesome to be able to see this one. Obviously, this movie is one of those ones where it started out in a very small, limited amount of theaters, and it is now into a wider release given how well it did last week, and that is why we see such a big increase in profitability here. But Terrifier 2 takes in $1 million to bring its total to $2.4 million off of a $250,000 budget. That is a huge win for those guys. That's absolute win for all of them. I don't know too much of the saga or the story behind Terrifier 2 or the people that do it or whatever fucking company Bloody Disgusting is, but that is a huge win for you guys. We salute you. Fucking absolute win. Get yourself ready to go do Terrifier 3, I'm sure, and we'll see you here on the charts whenever you do drop it. But now we're going to look at a movie that is absolutely just tanking off the face of the earth. We probably won't even see it in the top 10 next week, and that is our number 9th movie of the week, and that is Bros. In its 3rd week, dropping another 56.7%. Oh my God. I think it was like 53% last week, 56% this week. This is absolutely terrible that for a big budget movie like this to already in its 3rd week be making under $1 million. It takes in only $933,000 to bring its total domestic haul to $10 million off of a $22 million budget. This is a movie that will be joining Amsterdam and Lyle Lyle Crocodile in a chart later as we take a look at, is this going to be another huge box office bomb for Universal? It's such a shame. It's a great movie. It's a shame to see that it's continuing to just drop out and peter out and die here. But who would have guessed that antagonizing the straight crowd wouldn't get those asses in the seats? Who would have saw that blowing up in his face? Who knows? But here, rounding us off in the top 10, still hanging strong in number 10, the movie that just won't fucking quit. We're 21 weeks after its release, and it's still here in the top 10. It drops 14.6%, taking in $687,000 for a $715 million total domestic haul off of a $170 million budget. We've talked about Top Gun ad nauseum. We won't talk about Top Gun anymore. We just know that it continues to do Top Gun things and be a fucking amazing movie. But it is insane to look at this chart and see that a movie that's been out for 21 weeks was very close to taking over a movie in its third week. That is absolutely insane. This movie continues to just like destroy and everything. A movie that didn't make it into the top 10, and actually I don't know offhand where it did land right here for the weekend, simply because I didn't look anything past the top 10, was the movie Till, the Emmett Till story. It had a limited release this week, so it only came out in big cities. So obviously it didn't have enough mustard on there to break it into the top 10, but I'm sure we will see it sooner rather than later onto this top 10 whenever it does finally get that more extended wide release and we start to see it pop into some more theaters. So that's something to look at there in the weeks to come. We quickly take a look at our top 10 worldwide. Once again, we are not changing, but we are just adding totals. Let's go to the chart. Top Gun continues to hold strong at $1.4 billion. Jurassic World right behind it with $1 billion and change. Doctor Strange at number 3 with $955 million. Minions right behind that at $930. The Batman still holding strong there at $770. Thor Love and Thunder right behind it at $760. Slowly bridging the gap. Does it have $10 million left to overtake the Batman? That remains to be seen. After that, we've got Watergate Bridge with $626, Moon Man with $458, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore at $405 million, and taking up the rear, still holding on strong in that 10th place, is Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with $401 million. We wonder how much longer does Sonic have left with the release of Black Adam this upcoming Friday? Is that movie going to be the shot of adrenaline that DC needs to rise back up to the charts to Aquaman levels, or is it going to end up another one that's going to flounder out somewhere in the mid-range? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. And then right after that, we're going to take a look right here real quick at our top 10 domestic for the year. Obviously, we're going to rock right back into those charts with Top Gun leading the pack with $715 million. Doctor Strange behind it with $411. Jurassic World Dominion with $376. The Batman with $369. Minions Rise of Gru with $368 million. Thor Love and Thunder at $343. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 at $190. Elvis with $151, Uncharted at $148, and Nope bringing up the rear with $123 million. Now, quickly before we get into our final charts, we always like to take a look at our fallen heroes. It's our heroes that had their wonderful time in the top 10, did their business, earned their money, but now they have sunken so far below that we don't even chart their progress anymore, and we watch as they take a dive from the top 10. Only one movie this week drops out of the top 10. We take a look here at the chart. Gone but not forgotten is the re-release of Avatar, having spent 3 weeks on the chart. Not bad for a movie that was only supposed to be a 2-week limited engagement. Avatar, you've done your business over and over again. You did it in 2009. You did it in 2020 and 2021 when you had your COVID re-releases. And now you did it one last time to drum up that interest for your new movie drop in December 2022. Avatar and your insane 4, 5, 6 re-releases, we salute you. Now we have one last chart that we're going to take a look at before we leave here. We're not going to look at our highest worldwide grossers of all time because once again, Top Gun is still got a ways to go before it overtakes Furious 7. I'm still charting the progress. If we get anywhere close or anything worth bringing that chart into the fold for, I obviously will do so. We are also not going to take a look at our 2022 blockbuster status checklist because nothing has been added. We still have Bullet Train as the last one added to the list. Hopefully soon, though, we will be adding Smile to that list, so I will bring it up whenever we finally do cross that threshold. But the last chart that I would like to look at today is our 2022 box office bombs, and that's taking a look at the movies that have lost the most amount of money here this year. Now, obviously, I'm not taking into account any movies that managed to even make a little bit over what their initial budget is. I didn't take into account anything of what their marketing cost was. This is simply movies that we're going to look at that failed to recoup that initial budget that was allocated for these movies and just how big some of these deficits were. And we do that because we want to highlight, do we have 3 movies right now that are in the top 10 that might join this list when all is said and done? That remains to be seen. But for now, we're going to take a look and we're going to see at those movies that are already on the list. Let's go to the chart. We take a look here at our biggest box office bombs of 2022. Right there at the top, the most staggering of box office bombs is Moonfall, which had a purported $146 million budget and only managed to take in $59.1 million. That is fucking insane. Right there behind it, 3,000 Years of Longing is another movie, had a $60 million budget and only managed to take in $17 million. That is insane. The King's Daughter coming right in behind that off of a $40 million budget only made $1.8 million. That is freaking insane. We have a pair of Liam Neeson thriller movies dropping in next. Memory and Blacklight, both with $43 million budgets. Memory only took in 13.6. Blacklight took in 15.5. My God, those movies just absolutely tanking. The 355, an action movie from back in January with Jessica Chastain and a bunch of other kick-ass women, had a budget of purportedly around $40 to $75 million and only took in $27 million. Oof, that is a fucking train wreck. Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank, somehow had $45 million budget, only took in $28 million. The Northman, one of my favorite movies for the year, with a $90 million budget and only made $69.1 million. An absolute shame that that movie is in the red here. That movie is one of the best movies that I have seen this year. I think it is my number 3 favorite movie of the year so far, behind Everything Everywhere All at Once and Top Gun Maverick. It is just an absolute incredible tale. I implore anybody that didn't go out and go check it to check it out on streaming and whatever sites it's on, buy it on physical media or anything. Support that movie any way you can now because it deserves to be seen. It is absolutely incredible. Right behind that, you got the Bob's Burgers movie with a $38 million budget and only a $13.6 million gross. And then bringing up that rear, not so badly in the red, but still hanging in there, that is Easter Sunday with a $17 million budget and only making $13 million. So now the big question that we all have to answer now is, will Bros, Amsterdam, and Lyle Lyle Crocodile be joining this chart? Lyle Lyle Crocodile, I think, probably has the best chance of slowly recouping enough that it might manage to stay off this list, but I think Amsterdam and Bros is an absolute sure bet, especially Bros. I would not be shocked to see that movie out of the top 10 next week. We've got Black Adam and Ticket to Paradise coming out, 2 movies that I expect to do really good money at the box office. Black Adam, obviously, I expect to take number 1. I think Ticket to Paradise is going to end up fighting with Halloween Ends for the number 2 spot, but I could see those movies, those 3 movies and Smile are going to put up some nice numbers next week. And I think those 2 movies especially probably going to knock out Bros and Top Gun. Top Gun might finally be seeing its final ride this past weekend in the top 10. Although it might not. I can honestly see another movie ahead of Top Gun that just ends up somehow just tanking and disappearing off the chart, and Top Gun somehow manages to still be here. It could happen. It absolutely could happen. So it's going to be interesting. Next weekend's box office is going to be very interesting to watch. it would be insane to see Bros disappear off of the top 10 already in only its fourth week. It would be such a whirlwind to see that. So I expect these two movies, Bros and Amsterdam, to be joining this chart when all is said and done at the end of the year, and we talk about our biggest box office bombs of 2022. And it's just such a shame to see when these movies don't live up to their potential and aren't able to find some legs at the box office and take in some big gains. And that'll do it for all of us here on the charts this week with all of our box office numbers. It was a fun little weekend with the opening of Halloween. Obviously did not do as much as people were hoping to, but 40 million still is nothing to sneeze at. That's still a pretty solid opening for any movie, and you should be proud, especially when you only had a $30 million budget. This weekend, like we've been talking about, we'll see the releases of Black Adam and Ticket to Paradise, so it's going to be fun watching those two duke it out. The movie I'm most excited to go check out, obviously, is Ticket to Paradise. Love me some romantic comedies. Love me George Clooney, love me some Julia Roberts. I don't give a fuck about superhero movies, so Black Adam is at the bottom of my list to go see. I am obviously going to go see it, but I'm not like racing out on the weekend or on Thursday to go see it. Thursday I'm actually going to see Ticket to Paradise, so I'm sure one day over the weekend I will go and check out Black Adam. It's just not something I'm racing to the theater to go do, but I will go and check it out so that we can talk about it all here next weekend when we talk about our box office numbers for next weekend and we see just what I thought of Black Adam and Ticket to Paradise and just how well they do here at the box office. So be sure to join me next weekend when we dive back into those good box office numbers. But that's going to do it for all of us here today. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of Halloween. If you thought it was crap because it wasn't like every other Halloween movie, if you wanted just Michael Myers killing and Laurie Strode fighting them, or if you were happy with the way Halloween Ends turned and it subverted your expectations and gave you something new and fresh and interesting, let me know. I want to hear all that stuff down below. But until the next video, you have been you, I have been me. These are the movies we love so much. Enjoy your Halloween movies out there, and everybody doing your 31 days of Halloween and all that good stuff. And until the next video, adventure on.